Born in Romania in 1971, Gheorghe Muresan grew to be the tallest NBA player ever, standing at 7 feet and 7.5 inches. Muresan is half an inch taller than Manute Bol, another former NBA legend. Unlike Bol, Muresan was far more productive on the court and equally interesting off it, and fans and media flocked to see a person of his stature in action. Here are the 10 things you probably didn't know about Gheorghe Muresan. Tall because of growth hormone disorder, not genetics. Gheorghe Muresan's parents were 5'7" and 5'9" respectively, and they couldn't even dream that their offspring would become the tallest human in NBA history. However, due to a pituitary gland disorder, Gheorghe reached 7 feet at the age of 15 and was still growing. Despite his size, he never thought about basketball as his sport of choice and always preferred soccer. But then one routine visit to the dentist changed his life forever. His dentist was also a basketball referee, and he saw the potential in the freakishly tall 15-year-old. Gheorghe soon moved to another city to play basketball, and his career started as soon as his new club found him a pair of basketball shoes, size 19. Drafted because of a magazine photo. John Nash, the Washington Bullets GM, saw Gheorghe's photo in the European Basketball magazine. In the picture, Muresan was standing to a real-size cutout of Michael Jordan, and the GM became interested in the Romanian center. Nash then found out that Muresan excelled both in the 1991 World Junior Championship and the 1992 Senior European Championship, where he averaged 16.5 points, 8.5 rebounds, and 3.2 blocks for Romania. Muresan then signed with the French powerhouse Pau Orthez and quickly became one of the best centers in the French league. He was still relatively raw skill-wise, but he dominated because of his size, and Nash and the Bullets decided to take a chance on him with the 30th pick in the 1993 draft. The Washington Bullets saved his life. Muresan was supposed to stay in France after the draft, but he decided to come to the league straight away. Despite a $150,000 pay cut for salary cap reasons, this proved to be an excellent decision, especially health-wise. The Bullets invested heavily in Gheorghe, and they spent more than $1 million in medical costs to remove the tumor from his pituitary gland. If Muresan hadn't had the operation, he would have kept growing and would have a life expectancy of about 40 years old, which means he would be dead by now. Tallest teammate pairing, and a running coach. Washington personnel worked really hard to get Muresan acclimated to the American culture. Gheorghe didn't know a lick of English, so the Bullets hired an interpreter that would go everywhere with him. The interpreter would even be in the huddles during timeouts, explaining everything to Gheorghe. Before his rookie season started, Muresan worked out with Manute Bol to help him get ready, and they were teammates for a part of the 93-94 season. Needless to say, they were the tallest pair of teammates ever. The Bullets also hired a running coach for Gheorghe because he was dragging his legs while going up and down the court. He was probably the only player in the history of the NBA who had a running coach. Most improved player in 1996. Despite a rocky start, Muresan wanted to prove there was more to him than height. He worked tirelessly to improve his conditioning and lateral quickness, which were his biggest hurdles to stay on the court. After playing only 12 minutes and scoring 5 points per game in his rookie campaign, by the third year, he drastically improved his outputs across the board. Muresan averaged 14.5 points, 9.6 rebounds, and 2.3 blocks in 29 minutes per game. He had also developed a really soft touch around the basket and led the league in field goal percentage. The NBA recognized his efforts, and he got the award for the most improved player for the 1996 season, and became the first European player to win it. His son plays for Georgetown. It's not uncommon that children of NBA players play basketball, and the same is the case in the Muresan household, with both of his boys playing basketball. Gheorghe's older son, named Gheorghe, plays for Georgetown University, and we didn't make this up. Gheorghe Jr. joined the Hoyas in 2016. He's a power forward, and his game is more perimeter-oriented because he is relatively short for Muresan standards, standing at 6'9". Injuries shortened his career. After he led the NBA in shooting percentage one more year, and after his Hollywood debut, things went south for Gheorghe. He got injured before the 97-98 season, and some teammates accused him of not staying in shape due to filming. He missed the entire year, and all but 1 minute of the 98-99 season as well, and never played for Washington again. John Nash, who drafted him to the NBA, was now a GM of the Nets and wanted to give him another shot, despite Gheorghe missing 2 years with various foot and back injuries. After only 30 games, his body gave out, and Muresan couldn't move anymore. Despite the letdown, Nash told reporters that Gheorghe was the best worker he ever had, and that maximized every bit of his ability. Gheorghe then returned to France and helped Pau Orthez to win the 2001 French Championship. After that, he finally retired at the age of 30. Best memories against Jordan. In an interview with Hoops Hype, Muresan stated that his favorite NBA memory was playing against Michael Jordan in the '97 NBA playoffs. Jordan was at the height of his fame, and Muresan was still healthy and productive. The Bulls swept the Bullets in 3 games, with MJ averaging 37 points and Gheorghe averaging 5 with 6 rebounds. It was the only playoff experience for Muresan, and despite the loss, he said it was the most exciting time in his basketball career. Gheorghe was also adored by his teammates, and Chris Webber once said that Muresan is the funniest teammate he ever had, an ambassador for the Wizards. Since he moved to the States, Gheorghe quickly learned English and got acclimated to the American lifestyle. He became a fan favorite in Washington, where he still lives today with his family, and can often be seen at Wizards home games. He works as an ambassador and does some marketing and community work for the team, and is literally the Wizards' biggest fan. Other than that, Muresan organizes basketball leagues and camps in Virginia. In 2004, he opened the Giant Basketball Academy, aiming to teach basketball to boys and girls of all age groups, and that's where Gheorghe spends most of his time today. Acting alongside Billy Crystal in My Giant. From Shaq and Kazam, Jordan in Space Jam, and Ray Allen in He Got Game, NBA stars were no strangers to movie appearances in the 90s, with more or less success. Billy Crystal, a longtime Clippers fan, was working on a script for a movie loosely based on Andre the Giant, who, like Muresan, also suffered from a growth disorder. Crystal needed somebody big to play the role, and there was nobody bigger than Muresan. So he approached the Bullets center when they played against the Clippers. Gheorghe agreed, and they filmed the movie called My Giant in the summer of 1997. The film was a critical and commercial flop, and made only $8 million against a $20 million budget. Muresan received somewhat positive reviews, with some critics calling him endearing and explaining that you can't teach Harrison Ford to be 7'7". Other than My Giant, Muresan also appeared in a hilarious Snickers commercial and acted as a ventriloquist in Eminem's video for the song My Name Is.